Lots of things hardening off out here.
Yes, this is what's left to plant for the most part. I do have some other things in the greenhouse that aren't quite ready to come outside. A lot of this has already been picked through and planted, so it's leftovers or stuff that's ready for the plant sale. So I can use the leftover flowers to decorate the environment around the restaurant, make it a little springier, prettier.
Yeah.
That's another goal, is to just make sure everything looks super nice and appealing and for the clients, so when they come here that it's visually pleasing. So this is where everything starts, honestly. It's the greenhouse, the seedling room. So I start all the trays in the corner here and then slowly integrate them throughout this section here. And whatever is left right now is, you know, stuff that needs to either go in the ground or be repotted so that I can sell the plants. Because, you know, a lot of people haven't done their gardens yet. They might need something to put in the ground for themselves. So why not give them that opportunity?
Yeah.
And the greenhouse really is a bit of my pride and joy. I love it. It's where, you know, I got to get my hands in the dirt really early in the spring and try different things and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes, like, you know, seeding my all my radishes and my turnips a little too densely, and so they were a little bit too small, but the kitchen loved that. They liked the fact that they were small. So it doesn't always matter. And I've done like some funkier crops this year as well. I did celtis, which you eat the heart of a lettuce. So these are ready to be harvested. They're starting to bolt because summer's coming. Flowers, capucin, one of the first things that went in the ground this year. That's always on the dessert menu, practically.
Cool.
We have snow peas that are almost ready to pick. The purple snow peas. They're pretty delicious. I'm doing some long white, they're called yard-long cucumbers. So they're fairly larger than your average English cucumber. But it's a crop that I didn't want to do too much of in case the kitchen didn't particularly like them or clients didn't particularly like them. I've never had them before, so, you know, try things in small amounts, and then if you like it, you can do more next year. Same thing with some of the eggplants, small, tiny eggplants that are more of just a decorative garnish on a dish instead of like a complete dish.
Are they like fairy tale or?
I did frog eggs and I can't remember the second variety. Yeah, sorry. I did. I personally am not a huge fan of large Swiss chard, so I particularly only grow baby Swiss chard. I think it's a lot more tolerable, and it's a nice additive for a mesclun mix. Or you could just have it by itself, and clients really seem to like just bagged baby Swiss chard. Especially,
I guess it's more like spinach in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. It would be treated more like a spinach, and since spinach doesn't really like the heat, but Swiss chard can tolerate much more of it, then it's a good alternative throughout the summer to resemble spinach. I also have my kohlrabis. They're big and juicy. They're ready to go. That was one of the primary crops this spring, and we're working through the last 2 beds that I have left. Cherry tomatoes, they're very happy.
Oh yeah.
And they should be ready fairly soon. I did kind of like a succession of planting. Because I am by myself, I had to plan things in shorter amounts of time. I couldn't necessarily plant all of the cherry tomatoes at once because I also planted each bed in a certain time frame so that I could harvest every week instead of having 6 beds of radishes all in the same week. Doesn't make any sense for the kitchen. And also at that time, I don't have the market early in that spring, so I plant every week I would seed 2 beds of radishes, 1 bed of turnips, and then I've been still able to harvest those throughout the month of May. But seeding radishes and the turnips for me stops at the beginning of May. I don't do it after that. It's a hackeride turnip, and I found old parsley, which actually has the root on it. So that's what I'm attempting to grow outside as well. Just happened to still be there. But yes, so I seeded, I stopped seeding turnips and radishes at the beginning of May because it's also at the time frame when other farms start to have them available. And I would rather have other things than those farms for the kitchen. So if they wanted to continue to purchase radishes and turnips, then they could buy them from another farm and encourage that other farm. But I'm going to focus on crops that other people wouldn't necessarily have, and that way it kind of balances out. The market for those 2 crops specifically is quite saturated because they're very easy to grow, and they're very profitable as well. But for our smallish farm, it doesn't necessarily make sense for me to continue to seed those. So
yeah,
I've made that conscious decision. What else?
Flowering peppers.
Flowering peppers already, which I'm thrilled about. They're a little bit lanky, so they might not get very big, but we could have peppers relatively early. I didn't plant any of my summer crops earlier than I would have planted them outside, just because I had all of the spring crops in the greenhouse beforehand.
Yeah.
So there are people that have them already that are available, and that's awesome. But again, it doesn't necessarily make sense for us to do that. So I'm adjusting our needs and the needs of the restaurant based on that. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a hallmark of a lot of market gardeners to be, the first with the tomatoes and the peppers. But it's without this farm going to farmers market necessarily and having more of the restaurant connection, it doesn't need to focus on those things as much.
We don't need to be first for anything. We just need to have something available for the clients at the restaurant to eat. And that will always be our number 1 priority, is making sure that they have crops early in the season, starting in February, and making sure that the crops are ready for the winter months by, September, October. So I will end up clearing out the greenhouse at one point and implementing all of the crops for the winter. But for the time being, spring crops, we can go a little slower, and summer crops as well. So, I mean, this is one crop actually that has been here since last fall. It's the coriander, but right now they're using the green seeds for one of their dishes, as well as the flowers have been on multiple dishes. So it's actually one of the most profitable crops that I have right now, surprisingly.
That's pretty funny. I'm pretty sure most people were thinking, what is that mess?
I know, it looks horrible, but it is like every single client that I have right now wants flowering coriander because of the seeds and because of the flowers. And you can sell about a bunch like this for, let's say, $3, and I could get hundreds of bunches off of this every month. So,
jeez,
it's something that I was just left here from the last crop, and I haven't touched it. I haven't fertilized it. I just keep watering it from time and time again, but it's really established, so I don't need to as much. And now I'm just letting them dry so that the coriander seeds can be harvested and dried for the kitchen for the winter. So.
Wow, cool.
It's something I didn't expect to have. Happy mistakes. This is one of the crops I'm most excited about. I worked on a farm in my hometown the last 2 years, and she had this crop, and it's a ground cherry, but it's a tropical ground cherry, and it's a climber. So it's the same family as tomato. It's a nightshade, and it produces really fat, juicy ground cherries. I kind of say that some people either love it or hate it because it has such a unique flavor. For this instance, the pastry chef loves it and wanted to absolutely have it. So I just ended up saving some seeds from a few of the ground cherries that I had sold them last year, and I kept them in the kitchen all winter. And then I seeded them this spring, and now they're in the ground growing pretty quickly. And again, I did it in a little bit of a succession, so you can see the first beds that were planted and then the last bed that was planted. They're a little bit smaller, and that way I'll have the fruit a little bit longer in the season. It does take quite a while for it to mature, so this is a crop that we'll probably have more towards August or September. But they do get huge. They get taller than I'll be able to pick, so.
Cool.
I'm excited about that. And these are the peas. This is something that I love having really, really early in the season because I could seed it in March. I could probably even seed it end of February if I wanted to, which I'll probably do next year. But having peas, you know, in the month of May, ready to eat is pretty exciting, and I think it's just such a spring crop. And yes, I do have a second succession outside that I did in about the middle of April, beginning of April, which will provide us with, you know, quite a few months of peas. That's something that I would plan on giving mostly to the market because the kitchen gets first dibs. This is their first crop. They get to have this one. The second crop I will share with the locals because, you know, who doesn't want to eat sweet peas? This is one of the last weeks, I think, that I'll have this crop. This has also been here for several months. It was implemented probably the middle of last summer, end of last summer, and it's sorrel. So it is a perennial, so I could just leave it here. It's reseeding itself at this point, but I could also use it for, you know, something else, something a little more valuable at this time, and get the beds ready for even the fall crops at this point. So undecided yet. This is an interesting crop as well. I'm doing blanched chicory. So for instance, chicory is a very bitter crop, but if you attach it, tie it up, and hide it from the sun, the internal leaves will become very pale and the bitterness actually diminishes significantly. So I tried this year with just an elastic. I'm not entirely thrilled with the result because it ends up actually making some of the internal leaves a little bit rotted. But there is a technique to do it with a cap. So I think I'll probably try that next year, or maybe this fall if I want to do it again. But this is a crop that I think is just really fascinating. Blanching and forcing any kind of vegetable to me is like a highlight, and it's something I will be focusing on a little bit more. Like for fall radicchio, I'm going to do blanched radicchio as well, or forced radicchio, and I'm going to kind of hone in the practice of doing that. It is another challenge, but it's something that I find just really fascinating. It gives the kitchen, or any restaurant for that matter, the opportunity to have a vegetable that's stored for several months, and the exterior leaves will rot, but the internal leaves will be really delicious and beautiful for quite a few months, just until January about. So, you know, as a storage crop, it is one of the good ones. They should be coming along soon. I know that the beets, having beets this early is really fun. It's not entirely necessary, but I will be doing sugar beets this year. So nice. I'm gonna try 2 successions of sugar beets, one for the summer and one for the winter. So that the winter ones will have gone through at least 1 frost before I harvest, and we're gonna actually test the bricks within the beet to see which one actually has more sugar, ones in the summer or ones in the after 1 frost at least.
Nice. Well, I think we all have our prediction, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. We kind of all know which one's going to be better, but
yeah, but get
still
the real
curious
data.
to actually see the result of it and be able to test it. So another project.
Cool. All right, Angie. Well, thank you for showing us around.
My pleasure. Come again.